Almost 2 weeks after a group of students were seized by gunmen in Kaduna, northwest of Nigeria, the hostages are still in the grip of their captors. That incident was a third of its kind in the space of 1 month, and while resolution came swiftly for the first 2 instances in Niger State and Katsina, the home state of President Ahmed Buhari, the plight of Kaduna students is beginning to remind Nigerians of the Chibok schoolgirls who were abducted by Boko Haram more than 7 years ago. And while some regained their freedom along the way, there are more than 100 of them who have not been accounted for. And to a lot of Nigerians in the northern parts, this appears to be what life has become, a daily existence of apprehension and uncertainty. Why does it seem as if there's decreasing shock value about what's going on? What are the governors in the north doing with their security votes? And why does this problem seem to be endemic in the north? Joining us now to have a more expansive discussion is Ahmed Buhari, a businessman, ICT expert, and politician. We'd like to know how much help the security agencies are getting in their attempt to solve this problem. Have politicians abandoned the unpleasant circumstances of the present in favor of the uncertain road to the 2023 general election? And what political solutions can be explored? Welcome to the program, Ahmed. Good morning.
Ahmed.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Yes, Ahmed Buhari, thank you for joining us. Well, Tundu has already asked all the questions. What must the Nigerian government do, or the state governments in the north, to make sure that schools are safe, lives are safe in the northern part of the country? We get promises all the time. There will be a Security Council meeting, and at the end of it, we'll be told that the security architecture will be rejigged, that new efforts will be made. The governors also routinely make promises. The latest we had is that no ransom will be paid. The people who abducted the students of the School of Forestry Mechanization, they're asking for 500 million. Their parents say, please, government should pay the 500 million. But the government of Kaduna State says, no, we will not negotiate with bandits. And yet we have this recurrent abduction and the audacity of terrorists and bandits in certain parts of the country. What should government do? Because we should be focusing on solutions, the way forward. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. It's most unfortunate. All the things you've mentioned are things that are actually ravaging the northern part of the country. But before I go further, I would like to tell this very short story about the farmer and the animals in his farm. There was a snake that was spotted in a hidden corner in the farmer's house. And so the rat actually sighted the snake and then rushed to the farm to report the incidents, or to report the fact that there's a snake in the house, to the goats, the chicken, and the cow. And when he reported all of this to the animals in the farmland, they said to him, that is your business. You're the one inside the house. You're the one who goes into the house. We don't have any business with you. We are in the farm here outside, and we are safe. Not long later, the wife heard some noise. The farmer's wife heard some noise. She came down, and in that instance, the snake bit her. Immediately, she was rushed to the hospital, and then one of the things that were suggested that the husband gets for her was hot chicken pepper soup, so that she can actually fight the fever that she was gaining. And as the farmer would do, he went to the farm, quickly picked up the chicken. They slaughtered the chicken for the woman to actually recover by taking hot pepper soup. Not long after that, the woman started, increasing in more high temperature. She was unstable, and more people kept coming to the hospital. The farmer needed to entertain the people that were coming to the hospital, and then he went back to the farm, picked up the goats, and slaughtered the goats, and prepared something for the people to eat. The woman eventually died. When she died, the farmer went back to that farm, picked the cow, slaughtered the cow, and brought for people to eat during the burial. The whole point I'm trying to make is this is beyond government. This is also part of our responsibility as citizens in the country. Everybody has looked at this from every corner, and we talk about intelligence gathering. When we talk about intelligence gathering, the only people that can actually give intelligence report to the people on the ground or to the security agencies are the people in those areas. The people in those areas can actually tell exactly what time these people come out, what time they go back into their hiding, where their hiding might be, but they do not speak about anything. It means that whether this government, whether this democracy is a democracy for the people, by the people, and for the people, it is not happening like that. What I would suggest is there are two things that Nigeria must do. As much as we were complaining about the security chiefs needed to be changed, I said, look, nothing is going to change if the security chiefs are changed. They're still going to be working with the same tactics. It's not going to give us any different results. And very clearly, there are new people on the team now, but still, we're still going through the same problems. This is what I think can happen. We must embrace data management systems. I'm glad that the federal government has come up with the registration of NIN so that every Nigerian should be tied to their telephones and what have you. But the truth still remains that it can be done in a better way. We also have a situation, and this situation is Nigerians have got to be reignited with the fact that we are a country and everybody has got a stake in this country. What I see right now, whether on local media or international media or from Nigerians living within the Nigerian space or the ones living abroad, is there's a total loss of belief that Nigeria can be better anytime soon. So we must all come together and actually think and find ways, solutions to actually solve these problems, and rather than actually point fingers to certain people. I listened to the speaker before this one. Everything that we keep doing is done in isolation. The North is going to do its own thing, the South is going to do the same thing, the East is going to do the same thing. 10 years ago, we were actually talking about Niger Delta militants. During the time of Obasanjo, we were talking about OPC creating some mayhem and what have you from the Southwest. It is always going to be the same story, except we do the things that we have to do differently.
Right. I don't even know where to start with your fable about the snake bites and the series of events that it set off. I think the point you're trying to make is that it's everybody's business, right? But yet, this problem is endemic in the
Absolutely.
North. Why is the problem endemic to the North? Is there an ideological slant to it? Because, we've talked about, are these people bandits or are they terrorists? What exactly is it that makes the North such a fertile hunting ground for these people? And this whole kidnap for ransom enterprise is starting to take hold. And as you were speaking, I'm sure you saw the really disturbing footage of the students of the Kaduna College of Forestry in their ordeal, in that video that was released by their captors. What is your take on the fact that Governor El-Rufai has refused to negotiate with bandits, which I'm sure most of us support theoretically, but then looking at those people's faces, are you swayed in any way? I know you're from Niger State, and some negotiation was undertaken when the Kangara abduction happened.
Yes, indeed. But the governor of Niger State still insists that there was no negotiations done with the bandits. As I speak with you, there are certain things that have actually ravaged the North and has actually brought us to our knees. And the truth of the matter is that education has got to be invested in. A lot of education has got to be done for the people in the northern part of the country. And we must also, involve people on all levels. One would like to think, what is the root cause of all of these things happening in the North? Before now, most of the people in the North were engaging themselves in illegal importation of items through Modern in Katsina and what have you. Right now, it was a huge market that millions and also thousands of boys were involved with. Now those borders have been closed. They're in here, they're closed in here, and they'll have to look for something to do to make money for themselves. And it's unfortunate. The other thing that we must actually look at is to ensure that whatever kind of data we have gathered, how do you want to manage this data? But you see, I keep telling people one thing all the time. When you call people to talk about security or insecurity, as the case may be, one thing that we keep forgetting is the only person that actually receives the true, clear security status of the country is the president. He's the chief and commander-in-chief. He's the one who receives all the data. He's the one who receives all the information. He is the one who can now deploy the next action that will be carried out. For most of us, we really do not know much except what we see in the papers. So if it's what we see in the papers that we're going to be using to actually judge how well Nigeria is being governed, especially when it comes to security or insecurity, then there's a problem. But this is what I think. I think more has got to be invested in education. I think more has got to be invested in actually enlightening the people. And then we must actually find a way to return our people, lots of those people who would normally have just sat on the sidelines and just, continue the importation, illegal importation or exportation, as the case may be, and actually say, you know what, this can't work for you anymore, but these are the things that you can do. So government has got to create jobs. We have to create avenues. If we're talking about agriculture, then what's honest moves are we making to ensure that agriculture actually works for our people? Most of the food that's being produced in this country comes from the north, but more has got to be done.
All right, in the spirit of stories, once upon a time, there was a defense minister that says people should go out there and fight bandits. Go there and fight the bandits back. Because he said it takes everybody to do this. Once upon a time, we also had the story of Boko Haram or bandits being totally decimated. Once upon a time, we've had stories of insurgency and nothing has been done. Once upon a time, we've had ransoms were paid, ransoms were not paid, people were released. I ask you, in the spirit of stories, do we really get any happily ever after in this same story?
You know, I like where you're coming from, and once upon a time, the truth of the matter still remains that as we speak about these issues, people must actually come to the realization that the government is worried, the government is ashamed, the government wants to do better. And is it doing anything or is it doing nothing? I would like to stand with the fact that it's actually doing a lot. But this is what happens. Even if you are able to save 1,000 people from getting kidnapped by bandits, and only one person was kidnapped, you have failed. So if you want to use the indices to decide whether government is doing something or government is not doing anything, on the side of the government, they will tell you things like, do you know how many attempts we have foiled? And these attempts that get foiled, nobody cares about them. I mean, most of us are more concerned about the result. Who cares about how hard you're working? You can work so hard. If there is no result, nobody counts you in. So, again, we must realize that a lot is being done. I mean, I traveled the Abuja-Kaduna road last week by road, and what we saw were military men disguising themselves as farmers and riding on, normal bikes to travel to small villages and to deceive the people, not to let them know that they're actually military personnel or police personnel trying to, disguise to actually see what happens on the road. I'm telling you, as a matter of fact, that they actually find people every day. They actually foil attempts every day. But the truth still remains that if you do all of this and one person still gets kidnapped, then you have failed. The question now is, what are we doing to ensure that nobody gets kidnapped? As we talk about all of this banditry, kidnapping, it's still happening in the southern part of the country.
Well, Ahmed.
The Colombo boys in Akwa Ibom are still kidnapping people for ransom.
Okay, we go for a quick break now. We'll come back. But you've not still answered my question. Do we really get any happily ever after? We'll be right back. Right, so in case you just joined us, welcome back. Still a morning show right here on the Rise News channel. Riveting conversation, thus far, I shall tell you. All right, we've got Ahmed Buhari, a businessman, ICT expert, and a politician. And we're talking about security challenges in the country. And I did ask a question earlier on. Ahmed started with, posing a very interesting story about the chicken. And, I mean, you whet my appetite, my friend, this morning about the chicken and people eating the chicken and the cow. But the question is, yes, we can tell stories, but do we really get happily ever after? Because, sometimes I sleep in the night and I just want to wake up in the morning and open the national pages of the newspaper, and it should just remind me something from Enid Blyton, and we get a happily ever after story. And I just want to open the page of the newspaper this morning and see that the boys have been released and they reunite with their family and they're all kissing and loving their family after a long time in bandits' death, and we say, oh, happily ever after. We never get to see that these days, and that's all I want to see.
Yeah, sorry I didn't respond to your question immediately when you asked before the break with regards to happily ever after. This is no fairy tale, this is real life. And the story I just painted out was for us to understand how we have this attitude of it's not my business, it's not in my area, it's happening there, and what have you. I remember when all of this was happening during Jonathan's time, the Niger Delta boys were causing a lot of mayhem. Everybody kept saying it's a Niger Delta problem. Everybody in the north kept saying it's not our problem, it's their problem. But now we've seen it come home, and actually the chicken has come home to roast. This is what I think. For positive news, for positive stories, I mean, there are a lot of positivities going on around Nigeria, but somehow, unfortunately, the bad ones overweigh the good ones. And this is what we have to contend with. I keep telling everybody, anytime you step out of this country or sit down with people from outside this country and you speak about your country in a light that is demeaning, that is exactly how they're going to rate you. I would expect Nigerians to be everywhere to say, look, I trust and I believe that something good would happen in our country. I trust and I believe that we would actually come up with solutions, not just condemnations, as to how the government must run the affairs of this country, especially as it concerns insecurity. Of course, a few weeks ago, we woke up to some good news that the boys that were adopted in Niger State were released and they were back to their families. The governor had received them, had cleaned them up, make sure that everybody was fine, and then send them to their families. Whatever kind of negotiation was done, we do not know. The governor still insists that he did not negotiate with the terrorists. I want to believe him. I want to believe that some of the conversations that went on between some of the clerics and the people in the bushes with regards to those who kidnapped the children actually went well, and these people were released. But this is not the end to the story. This does not stop it from reoccurring or happening somewhere else again, which is why we will have to look for a way to see that there's a true synergy between the Army and the Air Force. I'm not seeing that synergy, and I believe that is where we are having loopholes. Because, look, if we attack these guys from the skies, if we attack these guys from the ground, I am trusting that we'll be able to fish them out. But, you know, the alacrity that you see in response when it comes to the Air Force going to hover over an area where it is believed that these people might be staying is too slow. Sometimes it comes late. And sometimes when you go to those areas, you actually find there are small hamlets, there are small bushes, and you're unable to now pick who might be a kidnapper that has gone to those places. The bushes might be wide, the forest might be huge, but still we have people living in those areas. And, you know, when you go there, you find that there are family people, and then you start thinking, could this have been the people that walked up onto the road to actually do these kidnappings, or who?
Well, Ahmed Buhari, I get your point about collective responsibility. This is also a point that has been made over and again by the president himself and other stakeholders. But some people will say that's as a result of the failure of government. Look at the whistleblower policy. One of the recommendations has been that, look, these people, the bandits, the terrorists, they live within communities. Why is it that the people do not report to the authorities? Why is it that the people have lost complete trust in government? And why is it that you have, at the same time, key persons in the north, Dr. Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, for example, saying that bandits are not criminals, saying that bandits are not terrorists, and that what they need is amnesty. And you have the Miyetti Allah also saying that it's the federal government of Nigeria that has caused the problem of banditry because, the herders have not been allowed to enjoy open grazing across the territories of Nigeria. These are some of the statements we get to hear. So it's not about the South saying, oh, it's their problem. It's not their problem. What should northern leaders do? Northern opinion leaders and stakeholders and those who call themselves statesmen. So I throw the problem back to you.
Yes, I remember a sheikh from Zaria. I can't remember his name now, unfortunately, and I feel bad about that. But he himself and many other top people in northern Nigeria, some 6-7 years ago, were actually very, very, firm on actually talking about Boko Haram and dismissing Boko Haram's intentions and what they carry out, and talking about how we can possibly fix the problem from the grassroots and all of those things. I mean, to be honest with you, maybe you do not know all those people were killed. So what it means is that some people in high places are worried about all that's going on, but are afraid to speak about them because when they do, they actually get visited and they get killed and nobody gets caught. Nobody gets arrested. It's, I look at it and I said, what's the conspiracy going on here? Could it be that the security agencies are part of this? Could it be that this is political? Could this be that? But at the end of the day, what I'm really worried about is the fact that people are being killed. So like I keep telling everybody all the time, the best of the security reports goes to the president. I'm sitting down here. When I remember during my campaign around the country, one thing I refused to actually talk with affirmation about was the fact that you do not have security reports. How then do you want to now give security solutions to the problems on ground? This is just the truth. So I really would like to hear, get to understand who exactly is giving this report. Where is it coming from? Does the president receive this report? How does he react to the report? That is the only way we can start looking for solutions to the problem. But if everybody sits down in their corner and say, oh, these things are happening and so this is what I think, without having those reports, then I'm sorry, you cannot be hitting the nail on the head.
I think you're referring to Sheikh Albani, who was shot dead along with his wife and his son. He was a vocal anti-Boko Haram.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's so sad what happened to him, and that's a really good point. People are being cowed into silence. But I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the calls that have been reverberating across Nigeria, ranging from restructuring to secession to self-determination. People just want out of this current system, and some people want out of Nigeria. What are your thoughts on that? The president has said that there will be no civil war. He's been quite unequivocal about it. But he also said that Jangebe will be the last kidnapping incident, and we have seen that that's just not the truth. Your thoughts?
I think one of the things that Nigerians must understand is when you look at the situation in the country with the self-determination, what do you call it? With everybody looking for a way to pull out of the so-called entrapment called Nigeria. This is what I think. If that is going to happen, what exactly is going to change? The same governors that you do not like today, the same godfathers that are actually causing the problems, and all of these people are still going to be in those regions. And guess what? They're going to be running those regions. So I keep thinking about, somebody said, oh, Buhari must resign. And after that, I said, then who comes on board? Oshibajo? Are you okay with that? He said, no, Oshibajo too must resign. And then I said, after that, who's Ahmed Lawa? He too must resign. So we're still not getting the point. The point still remains that the approach is old. The approach is obsolete. We're looking at people who are actually fighting terrorism on the global scale with technology, and we're still here on the foot trying to, go with approaches that probably worked for us in the 80s and 70s, because the North has never really been peaceful. There were times in the late 70s and early 80s when we had Matasine. Matasine destroyed everything that was in the North. Matasine destroyed Kanu. It brought Kanu to its knees. The military fought Matasine up until the time they moved as far as places like Niger State, Sokoto. Somehow, I think we overpowered them, and then they're out. But those those approaches that we used in those years, some 40 years ago, will definitely not happen will not work today. That's what we're saying. How much have we embraced technology? How sincere are we with the boys that we have sent to the front line? Because this is a war. Yeah. How sincere are we with the boys who sent on the front line to say, we make sure that their welfare is being taken care of. We make sure, but the sad stories you keep hearing all the time from.
Ahmed, you cannot be more correct on that point. I would like to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.